You're listening to Give Yourself Some Leeway with me, your host, Eugene Lee. I spent the last 4 years trying to discover how to break the burnout cycle. And as a high achiever in a fast-paced world, it's very easy to slip back into old habits that leave you feeling overwhelmed and left behind. If you're anything like me, then you need to hear this. It's not your fault. Each episode is dedicated to help break the stigma around mental health in the workplace, end burnout culture for good, and the action steps that you can take today to do your part towards your personal growth and success. I am so happy that you're here today, and thank you again for joining us. Today's episode is a subject that's very close to my heart and something that I wanted to cover in the month of November. Especially with Movember, I know I haven't really been growing out the mustache this month for awareness, but I always try to donate every year and encourage others as well to raise awareness around men's mental health. Stats show that a man commits suicide every 60 seconds in the UK. And often that comes from quiet men who keep all their emotions in and they don't seek help. And that bubbles and boils over a long period of time, over years even. And then when it finally outbursts, they don't know where to turn. They don't know where to seek help. They feel cornered. And that's tragic. That is terrifying. And I've been in similar scenarios more often than I care to acknowledge and admit, where I felt I couldn't speak about my emotions to someone, that they wouldn't understand where I'm coming from. And as a quiet man myself, I know how important it is to speak up about your emotions, especially when I found myself burnt out and I felt like I didn't deserve to tell people I was burnt out or that I felt worthless. So today's episode is about that self-narrative that stops you from wanting to speak up as a quiet man, as an introvert. If you feel that you're too shy to talk about your opinion, to speak up about your emotions, what you're missing out on by not speaking up. And my trusty black book that I've had since the start of Leeway, and a few bullet points that help me to speak up and break the silence and share what I have to say with the world. So the first thing is this self-narrative that we have. These thoughts that go back in the back of our minds, that naysayer. And I'm pretty sure we all deal with that. We always have this saboteur in the back of our mind who always puts us down, who always makes us feel worthless. And especially for men, there's this societal expectation or cultural norm that, we have this narrative of, oh, I need to be the strong, silent type. I need to be stoic and show no emotion because I I can't be the provider. I can't be the strongest. I need to be this role model of strength and never show any signs of weakness. And one of my favorites, I heard this very recently. I was out with friends, and one in the group said that real men don't show vulnerability. They don't show their emotions. And he was telling us about how he was afraid to show any vulnerability to his girlfriend because he felt that he would lose his control in the relationship, that by being vulnerable to her, she would have power over him. She would use his vulnerabilities against him. And how does he maintain that power, this power struggle in his relationship without showing that vulnerability and remaining stoic and strong? And I just took a step back, because I was like, okay, I'm going to hear him out and see, what's the root cause here? And he just kept talking on about that he couldn't show any vulnerability because that would take the power away from him, rather than actually being true and vulnerable with his partner and maybe developing a more intimate relationship. and learning about her vulnerabilities too. And it was just something that took me aback. It was like, are we as a society afraid to show any weakness, afraid to show any incompetency, any vulnerability in our lives, that we have to hold back and just have this facade that we are just stoic, silent, strong types and never show any weakness? Because often this leads to like we not ever seeking support or help or talking about our emotions. And that's what sent me on my downward spiral, because I hid those emotions by continuously working through it, or powering through it through exercise, through running, through anything to stop me from processing those emotions, anything to escape those emotions, rather than actually sit down, make those feelings real, process them for what they are, and seek the support that you need. Talk to a friend. Because if we don't talk about these emotions, they will come out and get us. It's like putting a beach ball under the water, and you can only hold it under the water for so long before it bursts out, and you don't know what direction it's going to go. You can't control what direction that beach ball is going to go once it breaks through the surface of the water. So when it comes to speaking up, if you feel that you can't speak up about your emotions, if you feel that you've been holding things down for a long time, that you don't have that support group, if you were to speak up, I think even if you think about, maybe there's someone who's very quiet in your circle, or maybe one of your work colleagues who's a very quiet person, and they're often overlooked because there's probably an extroverted, very outspoken person in the team. And they look to the outspoken persons like, oh, wow, they must be very confident, very experienced in their role, and that they always make their voice heard. But often the quiet person has great experience. They sit back there, probably an active listener. They take in everything around them. They're listening to everyone else's opinion. And maybe they don't share their opinion because they don't feel validated in sharing their opinion straight off the bat. They need time to assess the situation and take in the environment around them and come up with a possible solution that may take, a couple of minutes longer than the person who is very short and snappy and more outspoken than them. And they feel that if they come back a few minutes later, or that they're slower to reply, that they've missed their chance, to miss their opportunity to speak. So I think that, as both as a quiet person, as a quiet man, or a, as even just being aware of the quiet people in your group, or in or on your team, often the quiet person has a more diverse perspective. That, again, they're sitting back and they have a different viewpoint, and they're just not open or confident enough to speak about it. So often, by giving them space or empowering them, encouraging them to share their opinion without judgment, often you'll get a much more, maybe like, again, more creative or diverse opinion that hasn't been spoken up about yet. It also helps them to get more confident in their ability to communicate, because they feel that maybe they felt shunned before in the past. They have this fear of rejection, that if they speak up, they're like, oh, what if I humiliate myself if I make my opinion clear and no one agrees with it? Having that fear, if you can help them to build upon that, or if, as myself, and I found out that, I need to start speaking up because I can't hold these down anymore. I need to, again, with the podcast, I was like, look, I need to put in the reps. And actually, I was afraid, I stumble all over my words all the time, and I was like, no, I need to get this out there. And one of the things that held me back a long time was that I felt that I had to edit out all of the stammers and anywhere I messed up, or where my mind just drifted off, or the rants. Now, I try to hold back from the rants. I'm very conscious of it, but it's something that I was like, look, stop the editing. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect and perfectly edited. It's all about personal growth and continuous improvement. And that's something that a lot of quiet people don't like to talk about, or they're afraid of speaking up about. And by giving them that space, that opportunity to speak up, it helps to foster growth. It also helps to build connection. If they feel that they can communicate more openly, they can build connections both by networking within their team, maybe even a deeper connection with their loved ones and with their family. Also, it helps in your career. If you've been sitting on the back burner or sitting keeping the bench warm for many years in the office, or you've been just doing all the back work, keeping your head down and not speaking up at meetings, if you could gain that confidence to speak up at meetings, make your opinion clear, maybe you have ways that can improve the workplace, and you've just been too shy to actually voice your opinion in case you got rejected or shunned. Sometimes it just takes that one step forward to be like, look, I have an opinion to share. You may agree with it, you may not, but this is something that I see could improve the ways of working. And that could lead to a promotion. It could lead to you realizing that maybe this job is no longer suitable for you and that there are other ways that you can grow. But overall, I think the one that, especially that I saw in my friend that felt that he couldn't be vulnerable with his partner, by speaking up and being able to share those emotions, by being vulnerable with other people, makes you stronger. Because if you hold back, then that will eat you over time. And your partner, your friend will probably won't trust you because they feel that they can't share their vulnerable side with you either. So the best way to enhance your relationship is by choosing to be vulnerable. And yes, it's very uncomfortable, it can be painful. And if you feel like you're risking the relationship by being vulnerable and that they're going to use your vulnerabilities against you, then maybe it's not the right relationship. If you feel that someone is going to manipulate you, then that's probably the sign of a toxic relationship and it's time to start burning bridges. So if you want to really take the chance of a relationship and enhance it and go to a deeper level, speak honestly and truly and share those vulnerabilities and weaknesses with your partner. So back to my black book. This is one that I started when I first started Leeway back in May 2022. And when I came to the podcast, it was around August when I started the podcast. It was so long before I wanted to actually, start speaking up about it. I didn't know how to put my voice together and structure an episode, but I knew I just needed to get it out there. So here were the bullet points that I made that, that if I want to start speaking up, how do I put an episode together? Or how do I structure it? And I was over analyzing everything. So the first let's say narrative that I gave myself was that I'm potentially the only person who will be able to serve someone who needs to hear my message today. And without me sharing it, they may get lost. Next is I'm not getting on this podcast for myself. I'm here to serve someone else. If what I say changes one person's life, then it's worth it. That's my goal. To impact one person who needs me most. Again, if what I say changes one person's life, it's worth it. If only one person ever listens to this episode and it changes their life, it gets them to speak up, it encourages them to reach out to someone and share their emotions, share how they're feeling, and seek help, 100% it's worth it. I don't care if it's 5,000, 5 million downloads. Gets one person listens to this and it impacts them, 100% that's worth it. And last of all, when I feel nervous about coming on for an episode, I just need to convert that nervousness in my mind into excitement. So rather than saying, "Oh, I'm too nervous to do this episode," I just reframe it as I'm too excited to do this episode. I need to calm down. I'm so excited to share this with someone that I need to take a second to relax and enjoy the process. And something as simple as that is like, okay, I'm actually looking forward to this episode. This is a great idea. And again, I want to share it with the world. I want to share this with at least one person who's going to find this impactful. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And again, share. Uh, get the awareness out there for Movember, for men's mental health, for quiet men, for those who are afraid to speak up. Reach out to that quiet person in your group and see how they're feeling, see how they're doing. Genuinely ask them, how are they? Don't just send memes and funny pictures and, and GIFs and the like. Reach out to them and be like, hey, how are you? Want a call? Want to have a chat? As always, if you want to reach out and chat to me, you can reach me on giveyourselfsomeleeway.com. I've got all my social links there. You can reach out to me on Instagram at eugene.leeway. If you want to have a chat about this episode, just send me a DM with GYSL or say, hey, I listened to episode 95. And again, let me know what you think. I always love chatting to you guys. So thank you for listening. And until next time, take care.